gave vampires much thought.
Hello, tall, dark, and handsome.
Until he became one.
Oh, wow, I love your outfits.
I'm not wearing a costume.
Now he's losing his girl.
It's like you're not the Mark I thought I knew. You look like Jerry Lewis.
His customers.
Get out of here!
And his mind.
I don't want to be a vampire. I'm a day person.
Nothing is sacred in a tasty comedy.
Can't go on forever. I gotta go to college.
Once Bitten, rated PG-13. Now playing at a theater near you. Check local listing.
Hey, folks. Welcome back to Unfinished Business Television. Deep Dive, where we take a deeper look at plenty of movies, whatever strikes our fancy and thinks need to be talked about or people need to talk about more, see more, underrated, horrible, or we watch it so you don't have to. I am your host, Jeff Galashaw, at Unfinished B2 on that place that is known as Instagram. And with me, as always, is my co-host, Andre Joseph of AJ Epics Productions.
Once bitten, twice shy.
Yes, and if that wasn't a hint for you, I will tell you which movie we're talking about this week, and it's a little movie from 1985 called Once Bitten, directed by Howard Storm, and written by David Hines and Jeffrey House and Jonathan Roberts, with a story by Dimitri Villard. I'm like, I like that somebody had to come up with a story for this, other than the writers. Cinematography, Adam Greenberg, and the editor was Mark Grossman. Andre, this was your pick, so you tell the people exactly what this movie is about. And
so Once Bitten was one of Jim Carrey's very early films, back when he was just a stand-up comedian. At the time, he did a lot of stuff in Canada. He hadn't done a lot of movies except for that one with Alan Thicke where they're in the ski resort that didn't really catch on and had the guy from Chicago playing one of the songs in it. A lot of the stuff that came out after he blew up. And he also did a TV show that didn't last long called The Duck Factory on NBC. So Once Bitten actually came out after that show was canceled. And basically, long story short, this movie is sort of like a comedic version of Fright Night. Actually, more comedic than Fright Night, because Fright Night's pretty damn dark. You have Lauren Hutton playing the Countess, a vampire that's living for centuries by having sex with virgins. That's how she basically keeps her youth and her beauty. And now it's 1985, and it's hard to find good virgins around. Enter Jim Carrey as a teenager named Mark, who is trying to get it on with his girlfriend, and she's not ready to lose her virginity yet, and he's kind of getting impatient. And so he and his two buddies decide to go out to Hollywood one night, and let's go and just try to meet some girls and have a good time. They end up in a club where they have, like, you're on the phone and the speed dating type of thing. And the Countess is there, and she courts him, takes him back to her place, and basically she it seems like she seduces him, but she doesn't. She unbuttons his shirt, she's making out with him and so forth, and then she bites him, and the audience thinks like, oh, he's getting blown, and then she like bites his dick off. That's what I thought when I first saw it, and it was actually no, she bit him in the thigh, and so naturally he starts to have those vampire tendencies all throughout the film. And then it's up to his girlfriend, when she realizes what happened, to try to save him. His buddies have to also save him from becoming full vampire. And basically, that's the story in a nutshell. This movie, the way I came about it was basically when Jim Carrey blew up. 1994, you had Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber. Obviously, I knew him from In Living Color. That's how everybody got their introduction. But those three films, all of a sudden, like, he was the hottest comedian since Eddie Murphy at that moment in movie history. So it was one of those things where because of his success, all his old stuff started coming out, right? And this movie came out on Channel 11 one night. So because it was Jim Carrey, I had to watch it. So I didn't get the full, a lot of stuff that went over my head because I was probably 10 or 11 when I first saw this. So a lot of the jokes about the virginity and stuff I didn't know up until I was much older. And yes, it's not a particularly good movie. It did okay at the time, but it's one of those movies when I rewatched it again recently, I was like, you know what? This is actually much more funnier than I remember. Because now I actually do catch on to the jokes, and it's actually a lot more clever than what I thought it was. And all the people that they had in this were extraordinarily talented for that time. Not just Jim, but Howard Storm did a lot of television work back then. He directed Head of the Class, he directed Alf, he did episodes of Full House. Greenberg, the DP, was coming off of Terminator, so you could see like how he would shoot the night scenes almost in a style that's a little similar, but not exact. And Cleavon Little, who that was unfortunately my first introduction to Cleavon Little before I saw Blazing Saddles. I didn't know anything about him. And he's definitely more so than Jim steals the movie. Anytime he's on screen, I think because Jim is very taken back here, and we'll get more into that in a moment. Cleavon Little kind of steals the whole thing in every scene that he's in, being the effeminate assistant to Lauren Hutton. I should also mention that was also my introduction to Lauren Hutton as well. I had not seen American Gigolo or The Gambler because I was too young for all that stuff. And funny enough, my dad told me this story about how he actually once ran into Lauren Hutton on the street one day picking up my mom from work, and she saw like there was like, because he's a dentist, so he had like the dental symbol on his license plate, and she was in a taxi or a limo that was like right parked in front of him, and she looked, and then she looked through the windshield. She smiled with a gap in her teeth. So I always thought that was kind of cool to remember. Funny enough, this movie, as I learned later on, was supposed to be a Michael J. Fox vehicle. At least they were considering it for Michael J. But the studio didn't think he could carry a movie at that time, even though he hadn't done Back to the Future yet when they were casting it. He was only on Family Ties, and nobody believed that he could be a movie star. So he ended up doing Teen Wolf while Jim Carrey took this movie. Of course, Michael J. Fox blew it first, while Jim had to wait a few years after for this. That's all I can really say. There's a lot of other trivia we'll get into, but let's get into Jeff's early thoughts about this movie.
Okay. Well, I'm a little older than you, so I saw this probably way too young, like 8 or 9 years old, when it used to come on Fox 5 all the time. And, obviously that's the edited version. Then a few years later, I saw it on cable. And, it's not that much different. Maybe the shower scene and the cursing, obviously. That's the only thing that's really changed from the TV and the cable version. I love this film as a kid for obvious reasons. Like when Lauren Hutton's in the bar and he comes up and it looks like she doesn't have a top on, and then you realize, oh, it's wrapped around her neck and strapped. I did not know, even though I've seen this movie so many times, I didn't realize it was Jim Carrey until after the first season of In Living Color. Then it was like one of those, like, The Usual Suspect endings where it blew my mind. Like, that was Jim Carrey. I always wondered what happened to the guy who played the lead in that movie, because I think Jim Carrey, he does what's needed for the role, but the only time you really see the Jim Carrey that we know of today is the dance sequence. That's when, half the time he's going this way, then he's going that way, but dancing. It was like a John Ritter moment. And realistically, watching that choreography now, he's the only one who knows how to dance. Everybody else in that looks like they're like, 1, 2, step, 1, 2, step. He's the only one who seems like a natural going in that. I will say, 2 scenes are very offensive to the LGBTQ community. I won't blame Cleavon Little's performance because, ironically, he was gay in real life, and here he is playing a gay stereotype throughout, but he's a funny gay stereotype. I don't think that was all that insulting. The shower scene, though, that is like, wow. You could not get away with it. Now, it was funny at the time, but watching it now, it was like, ooh, no. Other than that, recently rewatching it, the ending, oh god, is so bad. Because, like, even when they're coming out of, I think one of the characters is coming out of concrete from the ground, it's like that you can tell this is rubber or foam. So, and they're running around this big house, and it's like, why is there so many limited places they can hide in this big estate, you know? And I know it was supposed to be making fun of dating and especially Hollywood at the time, but it was like, I don't know how to describe it, but it was like, it's interesting that this movie has a lot of people who starred in Friday the 13th movies or were acted in Friday the 13th movies. One woman who with her twin sister was in part 4. Here she's all alone, and she's one of the few female vampires. We never find out what happened to the character of Jamie and his other friend after they after the women disrobe. But I think it's fair to say they probably got brought into the pack. I don't know why all the vampires, spoiler alert, when Lauren Hutton turns older, they're all like running away. It's not like it's contagious. So, and I don't know why she needs this kind of crew with her. They don't really seem to do much. You know? There was another thing about the end. Oh, so they swing the door and these two idiots just stay there. It's like they don't run or anything. So I thought that was silly. Interestingly, the guy who played his, I guess, the more aggressive best friend didn't really do much after this, where the other actor who played Jamie, the more shy one, has a longer resume. And, okay, I have to tell my Lauren Hutton story. I met her, must have been a bad day for her, because I was working at Tower Video, which she had an account to, and she was returning, like, some DVDs. And then I'm like thinking, oh my God, Lauren Hutton, because this was my first movie I saw Lauren Hutton in. And ever since this movie, I always had a crush on her and always admired her because she always seemed so cool. And then when I like just tried to take her like DVDs to scan them to return, she would not let them go and kept looking at me angrily for some reason. To this day, I do not know what happened, but I was like, and thank God she didn't owe any charges because I did not want to have to face her ever again. And that is my short Lauren Hutton story. And ever since then, I've always had mixed feelings about her. I'm just hoping it was a bad day because I do respect her as an actor. And, you know, I liked American Gigolo. I like, even though it has a lot of, it's very problematic, I even like Once Bitten. You know, even that stupid scene with the drunk in the confessional. And I always wondered how these kids were scared when he just did that, but yet he has no facts, and I'm just like, huh? And watching it this time, I noticed an early career person. Megan Mullally's in this movie. I never recognized that before, and I'm surprised after, like, Will and Grace blew up, this wasn't even mentioned that she had, like, 2 scenes in this movie. But I'm going to say it's not a good film, but maybe it's because of the nostalgia factor for me. I don't really enjoy it, but I enjoy it. I can sit through it. Except for, again, the shower scene, which I think was supposed to be like a comic highlight of the film, but now it's cringe. You know? And I found out, to start off the trivia, that this was originally supposed to star and written for Cassandra Peterson, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, who surprisingly turned it down. And then Morgan Fairchild turned this down. Like, she was like, yeah, those other big screen movies starring me.
I've seen her do it too.
Yeah, so, well, that's really all the stuff other than, like, the trivia for it. I can still, unfortunately, it's not a great song, but I still remember Hands Off, the song.
That's one thing I'll say too. I mean, not that, you know, it's music that I have on my iPod, but the music is kind of catchy in this. Even the theme song, which I found out the other day, there was a music video for this.
We have to find that. I'm like I said, it's just one of those things you grew up with.
Scenes cut.
Yes, and you're like, look, it's not a good. It's like if you had a kid, you'd be like, okay, let me show you what I was watching when I was a kid, because it's like, That's why it's barely censored when it plays on cable, because you can't show it to a young kid. But if your child's like 14, 15, you're like, okay, go ahead. There's nothing too offensive in this for you to watch. Because even though this is a sexual film, there's no nudity. Just a bunch of naked backs. And again, early Jim Carrey, which I'm taking after he got famous, that's why most people were watching it anyway, even though it had a cult following before he got famous, because cable used to play it all the damn time, not to mention television.
Well, at that time, that movie was cashing in on the whole teen sex romp craze with Porky's and Animal House and all the other movies that were out at that time, Private Resort, Private School. And so they were doing that with the supernatural twist. So casting somebody like Carrey, you're only going to cast him because, he's a comedian and we need somebody with comedic timing. But nobody really knew just how talented he could be. And you get those flashes, like you mentioned, the dance scene. There's one scene where he does like a De Niro impression, even some of the drink sequences trying to be like a real vampire. You see like where Jim Carrey was going to be going. But the rest of the performance is just very much, we just want to be straight, mild-mannered, and let the comedy kind of come out of the situations, which is really not the way that you work with a guy that talented. And hence, at that time, he was up for movies like DC Cab, of all films. And Joel Schumacher thought, no, this guy's too talented to be in this ensemble. He's got to have his own thing. And then you remembered him for Riddler and Batman Forever. So that's one thing that I could say about it, is that you do see like where he was going before anybody else did.
Well, yeah, because this, obviously, maybe nowadays they would have built it more around him, but here it's like stick to the script and stick to the story points. You're not allowed to really improv too much. So, he plays it pretty much straight throughout. And, this film also has a cameo by one of the people who Corey Feldman accused of not only molesting him and Corey Haim, Dominic Braccia, who plays the guy in the beginning when they're at the drive-in in the ice cream truck, who asked him do they have any Tutti Frutti or Nutter Buddies? The overweight young man, and who was also in a Friday the 13th film, who was murdered in the film, the fifth movie, which Corey Feldman was not in. And
well, I'll say that the guy that plays the cabin boy vampire, he still drives me nuts to this day, because he was in the second Friday the 13th. He's the only guy that didn't get killed off. And I'm always thinking, they got to bring that motherfucker back so they could just wipe his ass out.
Well, with him, I remember him, interestingly enough, from an X-Files episode also, where he plays a serial killer.
Nice.
Yeah. I don't know the actor's name, but there's this one vampire who's holding Jamie and the other one, and he's got these big ass sideburns, and he has this laugh where his head goes back. And I don't know why, to this day, I always remember his look, and I always want to punch him in the face. It's like that movie Step Brother, where Rob Riggle is talking about how he wants to punch Will Ferrell in the face so bad and he can't explain why. But that's how I feel about that actor. It's just like, I don't know why, but your face bothers me always when I watch this movie. And I don't know, did you ever hear the story of what happened to the screenwriter?
Yeah, that he spent all his money from the film and ended up working in a video store.
Yeah, and then somebody brought the film back and said, whoever wrote this should never work in Hollywood. And he's like, they're not! So, yeah, I don't know if that was karma, poetic justice, or just plain old irony. Let's see, what else do I have?
Oh, Kathleen Turner was up for the count.
Oh, yes. Who, I'm not going to lie, would have been an interesting choice, and she would have fit in there. Need
a bigger budget for her at that time.
Was this, well, it was after Body Heat, I know. Was this before or after The Man with Two Brains?
This was after.
Okay, so she was about to hit with those Romancing the Stone movies, right?
Well, the first one had come out.
Oh, so. Man, yeah, there's no way they were going to get her. Or all the film's budget would have been spent on her. I know that test audiences like Karen Hopkins, who plays his girlfriend so much that she was a last-minute addition to the movie poster. And
very gorgeous. I was watching it again. I was like, yeah, she is like her with Jim. It seemed very lopsided.
Yeah, but I still probably would have picked Lauren Hunt at the time. Or they could have just cast Megan Mullally, but I don't think she would have made as big of impact at the time.
Yeah.
But like I said, yeah, I'm happy you picked this because it gave me a reason to rewatch it and brought back so many memories of this movie and the traumatic experience I had with Lauren Hutton. But like I said, I would recommend. I think people more our age are going to enjoy it than anybody like in their 20s. They're going to be like, "This is shit," you know, because it's very much a film of its time. All the Hollywood, Los Angeles jokes. But like I said, if you're interested in seeing Jim Carrey before, when he was more purely straight-laced, you know, give it a try. It's not a horrible time. It's just very, probably people would think it's cheesy, you know.
Yeah, I recommend it too. You know, you're not going to get an 80s classic, and you're not going to get like peak Jim Carrey in this movie, but it actually has a lot of fun in there. There's some really bright performances in it. If you don't take it seriously, you could actually have a good time, even if you're just like, you know, bored on a Saturday night with nothing to do. Just put it on. It's on Tubi.
Yeah, it's good-natured. You know, it's not out there to really hurt or insult anyone. It just is out there to be fun. You know, you can't take any of the lore or anything else seriously. So I say give it a chance. You know, you can always fast forward past the shower scene, you know. But give it a chance. It's worth it. I'm still shocked. This was your introduction to Cleavon Little over Blazing Saddles, though.
Personally, yeah.
The only other thing I really remember, like Cleavon Little playing a big role. Remember, there was a series on Fox about an interracial couple that just got married. The first season was Frankie Faison, but for whatever reason, he didn't come back for the second season, and they replaced him with Cleavon Little as the father in season 2.
Yeah, it's not South Central. It was another name.
Yeah, and really the biggest star in it was Nancy Marchand, who played the grandmother, who was kind of racist, but was getting over her. She was the Archie Bunker of the show.
Fox was doing a lot of weird shit back then.
Hey, shit. If it wasn't for Fox, I would have never seen this movie, so I gotta give it to them.
Sure.
But I wish Fox would take more chances like that with their programming, because at least the shows might not have been great, but at least they were trying and they were somewhat memorable. It's sort of like, remember they had a show called Duets that was supposed to be about a relationship between a man and woman. Then in the second season, they like kind of canceled the show, and then it's like, oh, we like her best friend character, so now let's center the show around her, and it'll be all about real estate. You know, it was like, hey, at least they gave, I guess, the creators a chance with that show. Whereas now, if it's like, if your first season hasn't attracted enough people, it's like, oh, you're canceled. No room to grow. Exactly. It's what happened to the Wonder Years. It's the new version.
Oh, yeah, they kind of screwed around with that one.
Oh, yeah, that one. That's a whole nother conversation. But obviously, you would tell the people to go give this film a chance, right?
Definitely give it a shot. And my last quote is that Megan Mullally smells like cocoa butter.
Okay, don't know where that came from, but okay.
And that reference.
Okay. Well, that ends our business for this week's or this month's deep dive. So until next time, folks, let them hang low and let them blow.